You can be the one who always shows up, who smiles, contributes, replies on time, and still feel like no one really sees you. There's a kind of loneliness people don't talk about. Not the dramatic kind, but the quiet ache of being surrounded and still feeling like you could disappear. And it wouldn't matter. Everyone says, you just need to connect more. But what if the real pain is realizing you already did and still feel alone? This isn't just being lonely. This is emotional invisibility. And if you've been carrying that weight in silence, there's a reason it hurts this much. You're not broken. You're tired of not being met. And in the next few minutes, we're going to name this feeling and begin to heal it. Some nights, I lie in bed, surrounded by silence, yet my mind is screaming. It's not the kind of loneliness people talk about. It's deeper, like being underwater in a room full of people who are breathing just fine. I smile, I show up, I answer texts, but inside I feel unseen. And I'm tired, not just from the day, but from pretending I'm okay. If you've ever whispered, I'm lonely to yourself just once in the dark, you know this ache. It's not about being alone. It's about feeling emotionally isolated in a world that keeps shouting connection. Chronic loneliness isn't loud. It doesn't sob. It sighs, quietly, and hides behind busy schedules and perfect selfies. That invisible weight on your chest? I know it too well. There was a time I thought being surrounded by people meant I couldn't possibly feel lonely. But the truth is, I felt lonelier at parties than I did alone in my room. Emotional loneliness doesn't come from absence. It comes from disconnection. The kind that creeps in even when your partner is lying next to you. When conversations skim the surface, but your soul is aching for someone to notice the storm inside. I'd laugh, nod, say I'm fine, but underneath, I was screaming to be seen. You know that feeling? When your words don't land and your silence is never questioned. That's when loneliness in a relationship hits hardest, like you're disappearing in slow motion. Still here, but fading. I got good at looking okay, at being the one who holds it all together, who listens, helps, gives. But no one saw that I was also the one who cried in the shower, who stayed up late just to scroll through strangers online, wondering why everyone else seemed to belong. I kept telling myself, you're just tired. It'll pass. But what I was really feeling was a kind of deep loneliness I couldn't name. A soul disconnection. That subtle ache of being emotionally available to everyone, except myself. Maybe you've been there too. Giving everything and still feeling unseen. The kind of invisible that makes you question your worth when no one checks in. And at night, when insomnia wraps itself around your thoughts, you wonder, who would even notice if I disappeared for a while? The worst part of feeling lonely isn't being physically alone. It's the aching sense that you could vanish and no one would notice. It's the echo of your voice in an emotional void, where your thoughts, fears, and even your joy have nowhere to land. Like gifts without recipients. You smile through small talk, nod through meetings, and laugh politely. But inside, you're hollow. Feeling lonely but not alone is a cruelty that wears your soul thin. And sometimes you don't even cry anymore. You just go quiet, hoping someone will hear the silence and ask what it means. But they rarely do. There's a particular heartbreak that comes from being surrounded and still starving for real connection. From being present but not known. Included but not understood. That's the kind of emotional loneliness that cuts deepest. You show up, you participate, but no one sees past the version of you they expect. And you play the part until the part becomes a prison. How do you explain that kind of pain? How do you ask for help when your silence has become part of your identity? Loneliness in a connected world isn't about being left out. It's about being lost inside the crowd. Feeling emotionally isolated in a sea of interactions. Maybe the cruelest part of chronic loneliness is how it feeds on itself. The more disconnected you feel, the harder it becomes to reach out. The more invisible you feel, the less you believe anyone wants to see you. So you retreat slowly until the world feels like it's behind a glass wall. You're watching it happen, but not part of it. Every time you try to break through, the fear tightens. What if they don't respond? What if you're too much? Or worse, not enough? Emotional loneliness builds walls so high, even love can't find its way in. And every failed attempt at connection becomes another brick. But the truth is, even if you can't speak the language of your pain, there's someone out there who understands it fluently. Maybe you just haven't met them yet. One morning, after another sleepless night, I stopped pretending. I sat with the ache. No phone, no distractions. Just breath. Just honesty. And in that stillness, something shifted. Not dramatically, but like a gentle whisper saying, "You don't have to keep vanishing to be loved." It was the beginning of my self-love journey, not as a buzzword, but as a rebellion against invisibility. I began asking myself simple things. What do I need today? Where does it hurt? And then I listened, slowly, gently. That was the first taste of spiritual healing for loneliness. Not an answer from the outside, but a returning to myself. What I've learned in the silence is this: the universe doesn't abandon you. It just waits for you to get quiet enough to hear. There's a presence that never walks away. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't pressure. It just stays, like a hand resting lightly on your back. When your whole body is shaking but no one else sees. You only notice it when the noise fades and your truth finally gets loud. At first, I thought the ache in my chest was emptiness, that the quiet was proof I didn't matter. But now I know, that ache wasn't lack. It was longing for truth, for stillness, for self. Because loneliness, when we stop running from it, isn't absence, it's invitation. It's the part of you that refuses to settle for surface-level connection. There's a moment that happens when you stop trying to distract yourself, when your breath softens, your shoulders drop, your eyes close not from exhaustion, but from surrender. And in that moment, you don't hear advice. You don't get solutions. You just feel seen by something deeper, something older than fear, wiser than words. Call it God. Call it the whole. Call it a voice you forgot you had. But it speaks in warmth, in breath, in the subtle shift from panic to presence. It doesn't shame you for needing rest. It doesn't ask you to explain your pain. It simply whispers, "I'm here, and I never left." Now, when loneliness knocks on my door, I don't pretend I'm busy. I don't scroll to escape it. I sit beside it like an old friend who knows the stories I've tried to forget. I place my hand on my chest, right over the place that used to feel hollow. And I say, "You're safe here now. I see you." It's not about fixing the feeling. It's about letting it be witnessed without judgment. Because that's where real peace lives. Not in the absence of feeling, but in the presence of self-compassion. Not in control, but in connection. First with yourself, and then with something higher. And maybe that's what this season of your life is asking you to learn. Not how to be stronger, not how to distract better, but how to stay present with what's tender. How to honor the ache without numbing it. How to trust your sensitivity, not silence it. Because that sensitivity, that's not your flaw. It's your compass. You were never meant to blend in. You were never designed to be numb. You came here to feel, to notice, to hold space for what others rush past. And that is a form of sacred leadership. The world might not applaud it, but your soul recognizes it. It's the part of you that already knows what matters most. So let me ask you something gently. What part of your loneliness isn't just pain, but prophecy? What truth have you been silencing just to keep things peaceful on the outside? Because once you start telling yourself the truth, you stop begging others to understand you. You begin to set quiet boundaries, not to punish others, but to protect the space where your soul finally feels safe. You stop performing for love and start returning to it, not outside of you, but right here, in the breath, the body, the stillness. And if you're still unsure, still doubting if you're held, just sit here for one more moment, hand on your chest, breath soft and steady, and feel it. You are not lost. You are returning, not to someone else, but to yourself. If something in you opened while reading this, don't let it fade. Let this be a beginning. Let this be the night you stop apologizing for needing depth. Let this be the moment you remember. That Serena is not just a name. It's a place inside you, a home for your soul when the world gets too loud. You are not too quiet, too deep, too sensitive. You are attuned to what others forgot how to feel. And that is a rare gift, a superpower that doesn't need fixing, only honoring. So tell me, what truth have you been hiding behind your loneliness? What emotion is knocking not to break you, but to bring you back to yourself? If this spoke to you, don't let it stay a silent knowing. Drop a comment. Tell me which part of this felt like your own voice finally heard. And if you want to keep returning to your truth, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, so you never forget what your soul sounds like when it's not fighting to be understood, but simply allowed to be. You belong here, and you're not alone anymore. Not now, not ever.